Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another super cool radio interview. I'm your host, always, Matthew Thomas. Thank you so much for tuning in. I have a great guest joining me at this time. I'm very excited to chat with her. She's the vocalist and electronic violinist for Wicked Vixen. Please welcome Zee Crain.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
Of course, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I know we got quite a bit to discuss with Wicked Vixen and a lot of other things as well, so I appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
So, as I said, we got a lot to discuss, but before we jump into everything, this is a question I've been asking my guests this season. So for you, if you could have dinner with any two musicians throughout history, living or deceased, who would they be?
All right, that's a super easy pick for me because I have two top artists that I absolutely love. First one is Robert Plant. I am I guess you could call it like a Zepp head. So from the time I was a teenager, I was obsessed with Led Zeppelin, and it even drew a lot of my initial vocal stylings from Robert Plant. So it's always been a dream of mine to work with him. I think it would be absolutely incredible to sit down with him and have a conversation. The other one is Lizzie Hale, and those two bands, Hailstorm and Led Zeppelin, they're like the forefront of what I do musically. They're my inspiration and my drive to keep doing what I'm doing. And Lizzie Hale is a phenomenal songwriter, vocalist, performer. Her stage presence is incredible. I look up to her in so many ways, and she has paved the way for me, and I think for a lot of other women in music, and also young women in today's modern music scene. So I would absolutely love to pick her brain and get to know her a little bit.
Well, both those are phenomenal picks. Usually people struggle with that question. You had your answers right away. I can definitely tell.
Yeah.
I can definitely tell just listen to Wicked Vixen, like influences from Led Zeppelin and Hailstorm in your music as well.
Oh, good. That's awesome. It makes me happy.
So curious here, then I will be getting to Wicked Vixen here in just a little bit. So do you have a favorite Led Zeppelin and Hailstorm album?
Oh man, that one's hard. That one's harder than picking who I would have dinner with. I have favorite songs that crop up here and there. I think, but it always changes. It's never the same. I think for Led Zeppelin, I tend to gravitate more towards Physical Graffiti. I went through a phase where I was really into In Through the Outdoor, and that one got kind of weird. You know, it's towards the downward arc of their career, and you could definitely tell they were experimenting with a lot, as they did usually. But Robert Plant let some of his Elvis influence. He was heavily influenced by Elvis. He let a lot of that in there. So that one's fun. I think those are my top two picks. But I keep going back to Physical Graffiti. It's such a classic, timeless album, and it really feels like the height of their maturity as a band. And then I think for Hailstorm, I'd have to say probably their debut album, the self-titled one. There's just so many good songs on there that I resonate with. And when I first discovered them, I went down a deep rabbit hole. Well, I guess I should say it wasn't when I first discovered them. It was when I first fell in love with them. I knew who they were, but I didn't get the depth and the weight of that band and what they would come to mean to me. So when I actually took a dive in, I like to start at the beginning of somebody's discography and just go from there and go through the entire journey that's meant to be listened to chronologically as best as I can. So I think that one just really sticks with me. It resonates a lot because it was such a pivotal moment of like, oh, wow, this is about to become one of my absolute favorite bands of all time.
Very nice. Fantastic picks for both those bands as well. And with Hailstorm, what I really like is how with their touring, they can tour with a band like Alice Cooper and tour with a band like I Prevail. That they're pretty they have such flexibility with their music that they can tour with many different bands, and their style will fit in very well with who they tour with.
Yeah, they have some versatility there, and I feel like Led Zeppelin probably did back in the day too, because all their radio hits sound like Led Zeppelin, but some of those deep cuts, they get kind of weird. So I'm sure they had a lot of that variety as well.
Well, for sure, definitely. But now, focusing on you now, so what inspired you to pursue music as a career?
So I started violin when I was 4, and I I loved it, but I never knew that I really, wanted to do something specific with it. That was until around the time that I did discover Led Zeppelin, which was around the time that I started songwriting and I started wanting to perform, did some like oh, what would you call it? Not singer songwriter, but like talent show things for my school at the time. And although it terrified me, I've come to find that in life, most things that terrify yet excite me are usually the best path forward. So, both the excitement of performing and getting to see how alive it made people become when you could resonate with them um, and connect with them in a certain way. I think it was actually a look on my uncle's face when he just came alive from seeing me come alive on stage as a performer. I was like, that's a cool feeling to be able to see somebody that you love and care for having that experience. And so I thought, gosh, I want to do this on a grand scale all the time. And then the other piece of that was the discovery of Led Zeppelin when I was about 13, which was the same year that I had an electric violin thrust into my hands for the first time. And I went to the summer camp the creator of those electric violins, Mark Wood, was teaching. And I just wanted to sit into in the class and watch. I was just an observer. My best friend at the time had one of those electric instruments, but wasn't going to let me be just an observer. So he handed me one of those, and he was like, "Here, take this, play this." And I was terrified, but again, excited. And so that summer was really pivotal because I went from growing up sheltered and in the Bible Belt area to then discovering this rock music that I never heard before. I think I heard Communication Breakdown was the very first one, and I was like, what is this? And then it was pretty much over for me from that point on.
Oh, right on, right on. So, with the electronic violin, so was that experience? Was that your first time playing electronic violin?
So I played my friend's violin before, and they have a range of strings. So some of them have four, some five, six, seven. They go up to seven, and that's where they stop. Hers had seven. And, of course, I was just like tinkering around with it, but I was probably 13 at the time. So I didn't have a whole lot of knowledge of that. And it was a completely different instrument. It was heavy on me. I was a tiny little 13-year-old, and it was heavy. It was clunky. Like I couldn't quite figure it out. So I had toyed around with it here and there because I'm like, what is this? Is really cool. Like I want to try it. So she let me try it. But it was the first time that I feel like I was really exposed to that world in like a significant way because we were around they're called Vipers. So that particular one that style is the Viper violin. So there were other Viper players there, and sitting in with those other musicians and getting to experience it in that way, almost like you would if you were in like a lab band or jazz band in college, and getting to like have that collective experience was something else entirely instead of just sitting in my friend's bedroom and just kind of plucking around on it.
Oh no, I gotcha for sure, for sure. So obviously, I might be jumping ahead here, but so obviously you pursued like using that instrument and learning on that.
Yep, I got one of those instruments probably a year and a half to 2 years later. It was a birthday and Christmas present several years over, which I was completely happy with. It was quite the investment on my family's part. They all kind of pitched in to help me get one. But yeah, I ended up with my own and then it's been a journey, probably a decade I spent trying to refine that. So well until I was about mid-20s, figuring out what that sound was like for me. But I got the itch as soon as I played it and had that experience at that camp. It was like the Led Zeppelin thing. I have to have one of these. I have to do this. I want to do because I grew up playing violin, not guitar, not drums, not bass, and I was like, if the violin can do all that, then I want to be like what Led Zeppelin was, but with an electric violin. So fusing those two things together in one summer was an insanely pivotal and influential moment in my music journey for sure. Yeah.
Oh, definitely, for sure. Definitely sounds like that. And so this kind of leading to where I was going to go with this as well. So forming Wicked Vixen, how did this band come together?
Yeah, it took a lot of twists and turns. So it was not a straight path. It didn't just become Wicked Vixen and suddenly it's that. You know, I kind of envy uh, Lizzie Hale, one for having a cool last name that you can turn into something like Hailstorm, and two for that being the thing that she's done since she was like 16 years old or earlier. Um, I didn't actually, so I was writing songs a lot, but I was really afraid to show them to people, and I would get really nervous for years. Even after I started singing, I think I started vocal lessons when I was 13. I just wouldn't sing for people, and I was very, very shy about all of it, and definitely kind of had like an inferiority complex surrounding that I had to learn and grow out of. So I was writing all these songs, and I knew that I wanted to do it, but I just didn't know how to really get started. And so that kind of hindered me, and I got in my own way. Eventually, in my early 20s, I met a producer, and we kind of worked out a deal where I would work at his studio sometimes and help him. Like, you know, he was a little bit older. He's since passed away, but he had that studio for years and years and years. And he was at his peak in like the 70s and 80s, you know, um, even playing with some big wigs from that era. So I just kind of helped him keep things tidy around the place, and then we kind of did a trade off for like a discounted album. And so I ended up putting out my first EP, and I went by my name, Z, and then my middle name, Ireland, which is Lynn on the end. And after that whole thing, I gave it a shot in Nashville, which is where I'm from. So that's where all this was taking place. And I gave it a shot, and then I was just kind of spinning my wheels and stuck. You know, I played a couple shows, I did this EP release, but I didn't really know what I was doing. I never done it before. I didn't have an agency or anything behind me. So I decided at a turning point in my life that I would move to Colorado, which is where I am now, and ended up bringing that project with me, so to speak, even though it was kind of a solo project. I would play with other band members, but I don't think it was ever truly what I really wanted it to be, in that it kind of came out sounding like country rock a little bit because of the Nashville influence. And I'm so glad that I did it. It's a cool mile marker to see how far I've come, but it definitely, I don't think hit the mark, and I didn't even really know what I wanted out of it, right? This was my very first time doing any of this, other than some studio experience, but driving my own project, I didn't know what I was doing at all. So anyways, I bring that project out here. I meet a couple of really great musicians, and one of which is still with me. Kyle Gravitz is my guitarist, and he's been with me since I moved out to Colorado. And then, you know, we've had a couple changes with band members over the years. It still it still stayed as Zee Ireland for the first couple years. And then I decided, you know what, that's a little bit tricky to have people remember, you know, unless I can do a big push with a lot of marketing, and I just didn't have the money at the time to like really get some awareness and some traction going. So I dropped Ireland. It was also really hard to kind of yell that at people across the bar and have them remember it and try to spell it out for them because it was unique. So we ended up dropping Ireland and just went to Z. And it was meant to be more of like, this is a band, this is a collective, it was all caps. And we ended up putting out a full album underneath that name, a couple singles within that album that we released prior. It was a whole thing. And probably about a year or two into that, we kind of collectively decided like that also wasn't working, because I don't know if you'd be surprised or not, but the amount of bands that have Z or some form of Z, whether there's E's on it or not in their name, is a lot. And I also work in marketing. So I was like, the SEO is not SEOing here, and we need to figure out a way to make that work for us. So we ended up sitting down and kind of coming to that hard decision of, we're going to have to rebrand again, because it is a big lift. Any artist that has done this when they already have some traction knows how just kind of annoying and frustrating that whole process is. But I knew that if I wanted it to be successful, it'd have to be something memorable. We'd have to stand out from everybody else. And we would need something that was a little bit punchier than what we currently had. So we kind of brainstormed some ideas, came up with buzzwords that we wanted to use that we felt resonated with the sound of where we were heading. And then we came up with Wicked Vixen, pitched it to a couple of friends, let them sit on it. What do you think of this? And then we decided that was it, that it felt right. along with that, from the time that I moved from Nashville until I've been out here, which has been 6 years, and ironically, I'm moving back in like 2 weeks. I'll be landing back in Nashville. Um, and so the time that I've been out here, the musicians that I've had, a lot of them have been metalheads. And so that influence has driven us to heavier and heavier sounds, which I love. And I think the electric violin element and getting very specific on our branding and our band identity as well has helped to inform all of that. So it has been a very, very long journey. But the name, the music, the style, the imagery, and the whole package of us has changed several different times to arrive here at Wicked Vixen. And now it's been about 2 years that we've been under this name, and I don't plan on changing that again. So, if anything, at some point Wicked Vixen may not be a thing, but I won't take this project and try to turn it into something else, because I think that what we have right now is really solid.
Oh no, definitely, for sure, and I appreciate you sharing the whole, kind of where we've how we got to Wicked Vixen right now. So, like, I'm curious for you. You mentioned a lot. I do want to discuss a few things further. So, moving from Nashville to Colorado, was it like a different change, like either like music scene or just the culture in each state? Like, what was like the biggest change?
Yeah, both of those things for sure. In a way that there's a little bit of culture shock. I mean, not so much, because you're still within the culture of the United States, so that it is what it is there. But growing up Bible Belt conservative, um, also homeschooled, and then going to some religious universities, none of that which I, really align with or resonate with anymore, has taken a different path. But coming from all of that and then growing out of it and then stepping into Colorado, it was really refreshing, I think, for me to find more people that kind of aligned with me. I also um, officially felt like it was safe for me to come out as bisexual when I got here. And I didn't feel that way at all back home. And so I got to write about that more in my music, actually. Good Lord Woman is about having, just a crush on a woman that absolutely wrecks you and you don't know why, and they just kind of had this chokehold over you. So that was great that I got to do that. The music, so culturally, I would say, yeah, there was a big shift, but I was so ready for it. There were parts of the Nashville scene that I was just like, this isn't me anymore, and I want to move on and find my people, and I think I did that out here for sure. So on the music front of things, it is a very different scene. I visited a couple times because my brother actually used to live here, and that's the reason why I came out in the first place. Just because he was here. If I didn't have family here, I probably wouldn't have made it out here. But I noticed that there was a pretty good artsy scene out here, from visual art to burlesque stuff that was going on that I wasn't seeing in Nashville quite as much at the time. And then that there was a thriving music scene. I started kind of seeing and hearing some of these metal bands. At the time, I was like, yeah, there's a thriving metal scene. Like, there seems to be some cool stuff going on. So I also knew that Denver had a little bit of that. And but really, I didn't move here for the project as much. I just needed a fresh start. And it just so happened that I was like, yeah, at some point I'll find a band. At some point I'll piece this together. Piecing it together was a lot easier than it was in Nashville. At the time, I was just working a minimum wage job. I could not afford to keep good players. There's a lot of poaching that will happen in Nashville. And at the time, I was frustrated by it. I was a young artist, but hey, I get it. Like, we've all got to eat. We've all got to try our best to make those opportunities happen. So it is a much more, I think, relaxed industry out here, which has helped me get my footing in a big, big way and try a lot of different things without the stakes being quite so high, I think, which has been really great for our growth as a band. And I'm actually able to keep consistent, solid players, which is also really great. Going back to Nashville, I'll be living there, but that doesn't mean I won't be back here to play with my band, and also hopefully using those connections to get them, back out home where I am, to do a tour on the way out, or just to be there to play a couple shows. Yeah, pretty massive shift though. And it's a little daunting jumping headfirst back into that scene out there. But I think Colorado's given me a really good foundation for all of my experience to be able to go back.
Well, I'm really glad to hear that moving out there that things actually kind of aligned pretty well for you with with the band and moving forward with that. And I do wish you the best moving back with
Thank you.
everything as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. So now, before you move back, you Wicked Vixen has awesome show coming up July 25th in Fort Collins, Colorado. So this is the first show back in almost a year for Wicked Vixen. So how does it feel to be back on stage with Wicked Vixen?
Well, I think you'll have to ask me after the show's over because right now there's a lot of emotions going on. I'm excited. It feels great to be able to play with the guys again, and I know that I just have a good feeling about the show. Like it's going to go well. There's going to be a good response for it. We have been taking a break for about a year, so this will be the first one in over a year, and um, yeah, I think it's going to be a bigger and better version of Wicked Vixen somehow, because it keeps kind of growing and evolving and becoming this bigger and more badass thing. And I'm watching this uh, idea that I had grow like right in front of me, and all of these creative things come to life right in front of me. So that's exciting. Yeah, a little bit like nervous, but all good nerves, like the excited kind. And just really wanting to put on a good show for all of our fans that are coming out. We also have a great lineup that night, so I'm feeling really, really excited about that too. We've got Redamancy and maybe Fern joining us, and they're friends of ours in the scene. We've played with maybe Fern several times, and we've had several interactions with Redamancy, and we're so excited to get both of them up here to Fort Collins and also just play a show with them as our first show in over a year. So I can't think of a better lineup.
Oh yeah, definitely for sure. I'm familiar with maybe Fern, great band as well. So I'm very excited for you and Wicked Vixen and everyone on the card. It sounds like it's going to be a fantastic time. So like for like what can people expect like from this show? Like can you give any hints like anything like set list or anything you have planned?
So on our socials, please tease that we might be playing new music. And by might be, I mean that we've put it into our set list. So I just started working on writing some new stuff with our producer, and I'm really excited for the concept to come alive in the way that it did. So we'll be playing that live for the first time. Has not been heard by anybody else other than just the band and the producer. So that's exciting. And then, yeah, I've got a couple other tricks up my sleeve with making the set list a little bit more interesting instead of just playing straight through the songs. We're doing 2 covers, one that is heavily, heavily violin focused, but I don't want to give away too much because that's my secret weapon a little bit. So I'll just leave it there and see if maybe the audience can guess what that might be. Now, the song itself that's heavily violin focused is not a traditional violin song. It's a cover of a guitar song, but it is very violin heavy in the way that we're performing it. So, yeah, I'm excited for to see the response on that.
It sounds like it's gonna be an awesome set list for this show. So I hope anyone does come out. I think they're gonna have a great time, and then they get to see what you guys perform with with some of the hints you dropped during this interview.
Yeah.
So I'm curious now. So for you, like, do you like mentally prepare like differently to perform live compared to recording music?
Yes. I mean, I kind of haven't really thought about my live performance preparations, although there is a little bit of like maybe a meditative practice that I've done in the past. I learned this really cool meditative concept when I was at actually the Mark Wood Rock Orchestra camp several summers ago. Doc Wallace, David Wallace, who is the head of Berkeley Strings, was an instructor there and taught us this really great visualization. So if any artists out there ever feeling nervous, I do this and it kind of like grounds me in both the smallness of me, but also the vastness of me. And all it is you're visualizing, you close your eyes, you take some deep breaths, you visualize yourself in the room that you're in. And then once you get a sense for the room, then you visualize yourself in the building that you're in. And then once you do that, then you visualize the street and then the town and the state and then and you just keep going out and out and out until you realize that like all the things that you're feeling right now in this one moment are a little bit insignificant. But as you're doing this, you picture yourself and your energy expanding, bigger than you and bigger than everything else that's surrounding you. Because I think that's important to remember is that sometimes the music is bigger than all of us. Sometimes art is bigger than all of us. And so I try to embody that and encapsulate that when I'm on stage and try to project that to my fans. In the studio, it's a little bit different because I'm fortunate enough to work with our producer is one of my best friends out here. And we've been working together probably for 4 years now, which is kind of crazy to think about. But I think it was around 2020 when I called him up and I was like, hey, we have this concept for this album. And we worked virtually with each other for a long while. So the process there is just making sure I'm at the top of my game for that day, kind of the same as I would for a live performance, taking care of my voice, drinking tea, water, no coffee, because it kind of, dehydrates you, dries you out. Doing some singer throat spray if I'm feeling, a little bit fatigued, but just doing my vocal warm-ups. For the studio, I'm really trying to be on my game with my distorted vocals as well. So a lot of times practice my screams and my growls and all that just to, it's kind of funny that it's just me yelling in my car, basically on the way over to the studio. And then once I'm there, it depends on what we're actually doing. This song that we worked on, it was the first time that I'd gone into the studio just to write. And so that process was just showing up with some lyrics. But whenever I'm, or like a concept, and then we build it out together from there. But whenever I'm going into the studio to actually track, I will always have like several cups of different drinks next to me, tea, water, whatever kind of like special throat coat tea or anything. And then I typically find, and my producer will make me do this as well, it's Colton Crone at the blasting room. Laughing or doing jumping jacks, like getting actually like the blood flowing and your lungs expanding and physical movement does a lot for opening up your voice. So if I'm feeling stuck, I'll do some of that. Sometimes I like lay on the floor and visualize. I'm like, okay, hang on, I'm not getting in the headspace of this. I need to lay on the floor and like figure it out for 30 seconds and then I'll pop back up and I'll do it. But I have to like take myself out of that moment. Otherwise, because he is such a good friend of mine, and he's good about this with everybody. So if anybody out there has a chance to work with him at the blasting room or anybody at the blasting room, do it because they're phenomenal. But he has this way of just pulling the best takes out of me. And because we're friends, he'll very bluntly go, nah, that wasn't it. But also I can hear in myself that I wasn't it. And I'll be like, no, let me do another one. And so he's like, yeah, but do it like this. Yeah, but do this vowel on it. Yeah, but get your nose all in your face all scrunched up and, really project on this. Or sometimes I'll come in and it'll sound a little timid. He goes, okay, but now do it like you mean it. So it's just getting in that headspace of, I guess, emulating a little bit too how I would be performing on stage, because sometimes when we're in the studio, we want it to just be just so and just perfect. And he takes me out of that space to then say, you've got that on lock, you know what you're doing. I want you to put some emotion into it. He's like, don't try to make it perfect. Give me some energy, give me some emotion. I want to really feel it. So yeah, it is a little bit different though, because live settings can be imperfect and that's great. And that's fine. And studio can be a little bit too, but the pressure is on a bit more, because you're like, oh man, I gotta get a good take. And this might, be the one. And, this song is going to live out there for whoever it is here for however long. So yeah, a little bit of some mental games there.
Oh yeah, definitely for sure. Like just, obviously performing live, but also heavily on recording music as well. As you said that, it lives on for however, many years, many people listen to it. You got to have it sound like how you want it and have it sound, really good up to your standards.
Yeah.
But now I did want to talk about before we wrap this up, as you mentioned, Wicked Vixen working on new music. Can you you're at liberty to say hey, what people can expect from the new music?
I mean, it's a little bit more modern. Um, so think like almost kind of like I Prevail or Bring Me the Horizon or Poppy. I brought some influence from all of those artists, and then still staying the course with some of those Hailstorm influences, or the way that Wicked Vixen has been going, making it sound more Wicked Vixen in the choruses, but the verses a little bit more stripped back, a little bit more modern rock sounding. And again, with that, don't want to give away too much. The live is definitely going to be a little bit different than the recording. We brought some fun toys out. There was one point, I can mention this because this was really exciting. One of the benefits of being at a studio like that with so many things at your disposal is that you can bring out all these different toys and pedals and try a million different things. And so he brought out this tiny little piano. I mean, we're talking like probably this tall. It was teeny tiny. And he set it down on like a case on the floor, and I sat down, you know, all crunched over, and just kind of plunked out this little melody. And there are some themes of kind of like trauma healing or generational trauma pieces there, and like breaking cycles in the song itself. That's, without telling you what the concept is, that's kind of the concept. And so that was something that I'd never really done. You know, the violin is always the focal point. We do have some of that in there. But to be able to tinker around with some fun new stuff and take that kind of shitty recording and then turn it into this weird kind of warbled sounding, almost like carnival sounding, creepy vibe, definitely gave it something a little extra. So I'm excited to see how the fans react to that when the actual track does come out.
Well, I'm very excited. I'm looking forward to it. I was listening to Wicked Vixen, leading up to this interview. I definitely like the kind of direction you guys have been going with stuff and the sound you guys have. So I look forward to hearing more new music from you guys.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
But now, as we're starting to close this out, like, what are the plans for Wicked Vixen for the rest of 2024? We're already, heading into, July. So, like, what does like August and the rest of the year look like for you guys?
Yeah, so it's going to be a little sporadic. We used to play a lot more around town, and we're probably going to primarily be focusing on Denver. So this show at the coast is the only one in Fort Collins that we have planned for quite a while. Just trying to get into Denver and then out of the state beyond that. So after I move back, I'm planning on being out here again for a couple of the remaining months of the year to play at least one Wicked Vixen show down in Denver. Beyond that, into the new year, hopefully there's a tour in our future and getting us out to Nashville. Hoping to hop on some festivals, put out new music. So yeah, I mean, really, we've been away for, I can't believe it's already been a year. It flew by so fast. But I just want us to hit the ground running, take up as many opportunities, on a grand scale that we can. Right now, we're doing the America's Next Top Hitmaker thing. And so far, we're in the running to stay in the top 15, so that's going really well. Our fans have been really great about voting every day and sharing it and spreading the word, so that's been wonderful. Hopefully, we make it far in that, if not to the very top. But yeah, so if that goes well, that would be a big opportunity for us. But just putting out new music, putting out more new music, so that we can get a lot more content out there to the fans, a lot more new stuff, and just trying to spread our reach and I guess spread the wicked gospel near and far.
I like that. Well, very good. I wish you guys all the best for the rest of this year and everything. I look forward to seeing how the rest of the year goes for you guys as well.
Thank you.
But now, for everyone watching and listening, where are the best places to find Wicked Vixen online?
You can find us at Your Wicked Vixen on almost any social platform. Wicked Vixen on Facebook, the tag for Instagram, and I think YouTube is the same as well. And TikTok is at Your Wicked Vixen, so YOUR. And then you can also check out our website, yourwickedvixen.com. And then we're on all major streaming platforms: iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, all the major ones. Yeah, go stream our music and give us a follow on Instagram. Come say hi at the show. We'd love to see you, love to meet you. And yeah, drop us a line if you're enjoying the music. I always love to just connect with people in that way. And music was always something that really helped me in kind of rough spots in my life, as I know it does for a lot of people. So just to hear that there's a positive impact, I always love it when people reach out for things like that. So yeah, say hi.
Yes, please check out and support Wicked Vixen. I'll leave some links for them in the description of this podcast. As Zee said, make sure to stream the music and engage and connect with them as well. But Zee, thank you so much for stopping by. I had a fantastic time chatting with you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a pleasure.
Of course, for Zee Crain of Wicked Vixen, I'm your host always, Matthew Thomas. Thank you so much for watching and listening to Super Cool Radio. And remember, stay frosty.